Check, check. Record, record. So, man, I have a point I'd like to discuss. Um, Greed. It's been a point inside myself that I've hidden from. Um, then greed existing in me. There's been a lot of defenses and offenses in my behavior where justification would trump my introspection ever really into my greed. Where, yeah, greed for me would be, whatever I have a desire towards, having this, this greed in me of like, well, always wanting to get more, and being pretty ruthless about it. And this took me like, well, fuck. I was not seeing this very well for quite some time, and it's only through, not that long ago, fairly recently, just experiencing such trauma of loss that I was writing about. It's basically me and some of my choices, decisions within a relationship where I fought for my own limitations sometimes. Hi. And it's really tough to see the fact that I disregarded myself within greed, and I've disregarded those closest to me at different times. In a way, well, not, yeah. Shame has been a block in my greed to an extent, and I don't think of myself as ever having, there's been a piece of greed in me that's been like this massive defense system, offense system, where I'd react just so easily to it. Even when I go not to, it's just like there's so many different forms justification in my offense, in taking offense, blaming, justifying, making up a reason, this, that, whatever. Not really seeing, the source of that like deeper fight or argument. Me resisting, being so resistant to challenging myself on greed. Greed has been a point that I've been dishonest about. I've accepted and allowed the mentality within myself that greed is good, justifying that within the mentality that you have to fight, you have to be really competitive in this world. Simply that you can't judge yourself about it. So within this was like me excusing, justifying a complete abdication on my due diligence, really, to hold myself accountable, to make sure that I'm not existing in the greed energy in any way. And this has been like a real sore spot in me for like a long time, because there's been a tendency, even in reflecting on things that I've done that I'm not proud of, that I recognize were wrong, were not my best. There's been a tendency to, in some way, glorify those actions, and that's basically like a subtleness of justification. So obviously, it's been uncomfortable to see that, to recognize that. It sucks. Really sucks from that perspective. And initially, bit of judgment on myself and my shame. Like, that's kind of a point behind the point, is that for the most part, I haven't really had all that much legit shame. And it the experience of loss, it's like what I was hiding from, unbeknownst to myself, really. uh, because I was just so guarded with my defenses. Couldn't even really see what I was accepting and allowing. Like this. this basically, there's been a lot of abdication in my my best living. Um, greed. Now, get into specifics of greed. There's two main points. I could probably even deduce it. Well, no, the two go together. That being sex and money. Sex and money. Now, yeah. How I couldn't. I didn't even. I'm so ashamed of the compromises I've made in relationships, like relationships that I care about. But then again, that care is totally questionable because I've had this block in me with greed, and I've compromised myself in relationships for sex and money. Like me thinking about or doing things for money. I mean, it being kind of like an obsession of sorts. Like it took precedence over everything. And yeah, I always justified it. And sex, kind of being like, well, me kind of regarding it like money. And yeah, orgasms is like your credit, and thinking and holding on to the idea within sex that, like, you know, there's nothing, like, not making a big deal about sex in a way. Well, in a way, making a super huge deal about it. By, like, you know, it being this thing that like I want and I need to have. And yeah, it kind of being almost this this like non-negotiable to this sex being a non-negotiable. Um, and there's some shame. There's some shame here. I've accepted and allowed to just kind of have this idea that well, it's like 2 points. It's like one, it's like a part of me has felt conflicted almost within like a morality that you know you you're not supposed to have sex with more than one person. Like you're supposed to be just in a committed relationship. And I had a really cool committed relationship, and I totally had been compromising, sacrificing that for an idea. The experience in me of like needing sex and a committed relationship was a point with much long distance, and I totally justified being promiscuous in my thinking, really. Like there being this point of greed in me about sex where it's like this point of inadequacy in myself, and believing like sex makes me feel better, and thus like because sex feels good, it's enjoyable, um, it it's even more enjoyable if I get to have it with more women. That like each woman is special, and like why would I restrict that? If there's a woman in my immediate environment who wants to touch me, why would I say no when I enjoy touch? Now, that was totally my justification, my reasoning, and I learned a lesson really, really harshly, hard way, where this point of sex, desire to have sex with other women while being in a long distance relationship, um, I had I had a lot of judgment about that, but 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 uh, I justified that, and I didn't realize greed in relation to sex, and thus when I was challenging myself on like sexual possession within myself, like letting go of desire to have sex with others, I I missed it. I totally missed uh, the the energy specifically as a greed, um, and so there was this like fighting in me that only my way is right, and it's just to get you to be agreed with what I say, because that, that's getting what I want, the the greed to stay intact. Yeah. So shame is, it's like helpful. Uh, it's uncomfortable, but it supported me to see and understand greed, which had had been a bit of a block in me, and yeah, a lot of sadness and sorrow connected to that, because, well, fuck, with greed, there's like no shame, there's no remorse, there's no real like there's no real forgiveness, there's no real change. It's like greed, so much so is the point of well, being a manipulator with your words, where, say this, that. It's like not really, yeah, not no having not having shame, not having shame grounded in you, like you fucking really know and understand what the fuck shame is, because like what comes through is that there's I I have a lot of shame, like a lot. The way I've treated and cared for my body, just my caretaking. I mean, even sex, like within that, there kind of being a point of like it's just my body that's I'm experiencing something, or I want this, so whatever. And that's been like that's been the relationship of putting things inside me, really, is just simply, do I feel like it? And it being a, yeah, like just like my body's been this thing I've been coping with, which is incredibly sad. So, wow. Hmm. Like, I mean, it sounds so ridiculous to say. Well, I mean, it is so ridiculous to shame your body. I mean, it's, actually, it's like shaming yourself for the fact that you've been shaming your body. Yeah. I forgive myself for accepting and allowing myself to resist looking at the shame inside me. I forgive myself for accepting and allowing myself to resist seeing the shame and the sorrow and the sadness that is uncomfortable. I forgive myself for accepting and allowing myself for hiding and really guarding myself, creating like such walled defense and offense for vulnerability. I forgive myself for accepting and allowing myself to think and believe vulnerability means simply being emotional. Like you're sensitive and being emotional. That's completely, utterly ridiculous. Vulnerability is it's about exposure, and it's not about getting caught up in your emotions. I mean that can happen in exposing yourself to deeper parts of yourself that are uncomfortable. I went through that, and it was tough at times because I had so much justification, defense systems, and it's all about the questions we ask ourselves. What questions are we willing to ask? So, yeah, vulnerability has been something that is a new word for me in living. Um, it's been something I've been playing with and practicing for a number of months. And I mean, it's really questionable why I didn't have more clarity in my definition of vulnerability. Though, also what I'm recognizing and realizing is that testing out and living words is a process that takes place in everyday moments. It's a day-to-day thing, and really the testing things out and playing with things only comes through, your reflection, your introspection on your interactions. And I mean, man, the amount we're able to process in like one moment when we're just simply here and we recognize what comes up inside ourselves, it's quite a lot. So, yeah, vulnerability is a word I'm expanding my definition. Well, I'm simplifying my definition because, I had emotional connection to it before, but in my definition before, it kind of meant like, well, for me, it meant acting out the emotion that comes up. And yeah, I just kind of, well, that's what I did. And I don't think that's the way to go at all. In fact, it's shameful even in seeing that point for myself, because it's like I had shown myself this before, but it's like there's this other part of me that has always just kind of accepted that I'm never good enough. That yeah, just not good enough. And that would create compensations in my character, my personality, where it's like wanting to make myself appear better than I am. And yeah, I can see how justification has been there in self-glorification, in kind of excusing some of my mistakes that I've learned lessons from, and yeah, not being 100% effective with my self-forgiveness, because shame has been a suppressed sorrow and real sadness. And it's interesting. It's interesting because I've been so shy and guarded about expressing and sharing something that is sad to me, or it's just something just sucks. And it's like I've tried to cover that up, that the stuff that sucks inside myself. And I mean, in a way, well, no, it totally the way I've been distracted from really facing what is uncomfortable for me. It's like, yeah, sure, done a bunch of things, but I've had a really hard time being honest about sadness and sorrow. Like 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 I just get so squeamish about it, where like I just reacted for such a long time, so extensively, at that point. And this, I mean, fuck, look at how long this video is. Who am I talking to, though? Really, I'm making this for me first and foremost, and I can share this. So I kind of just waddled out points of difficulty and challenge for myself. Vulnerability, shame, greed, big points. I'll continue to work with these points. I think I'm finally getting to a point where I can talk about whatever discomfort comes in me, and that was a block. Like, there are so many defenses and offenses where it's like, convince yourself of something, this because of that, this because of that, this because of that, like twisting and turning your words to fit your narrative. However, and shame, serious shame on my mistakes. It's like there's been this little piece of me also where, like, I believe the point cannot be soothed by me alone, yet it is for me alone. That's kind of been a block.